A while back, a caller told me that he'd built his own operating system.
I have a startup with one of my friends, and
Oh, okay.
we build operating systems.
It was both a CLI and a GUI and an operating system, and it had zero memory mapping because what's an MMU? No user space because a kernel is where you develop things. And for synchronization, he used a spit lock to manage an 8-byte vector on his 4-byte stack. Now, I spent this last week checking if all of this was feasible, and in today's video, I will be describing and demoing how I built WhatNotOS and what we can learn from it. Now, I want to set some ground rules first. This is a real operating system. It's 7 files and 700 lines of code that I'll be booting using QEMU, which is an emulation software. This software will be linked in the description box below. What it does is it can simulate an entire computer, which includes your CPU, your RAM, storage devices, all while running on your own operating system as a guest. I'm doing it on my MacBook Pro because the toolchain is super simple with one homebrew command essentially to download and install. Whereas on Windows, I need a lot more work. And QEMU's native Cocoa window on macOS is really easy for my OBS to capture. So let's jump right in. On my screen right now, I have the start of our demo. The interesting part of what we're about to explore is that WhatNotOS is what every OS is really for around a microsecond. There's no paging, there's no distinction between user space and kernel space, everything is ring zero, and every address is physical. So in a way, we're all running WhatNotOS. You can see it as kind of like the starting point for every OS, in which the OS tries to escape that starting point as soon as possible during boot. Before we can run QEMU, we actually need to build the application. Now, when you compile a normal C++ program, the compiler makes plenty of assumptions as to what's going on under the hood. And that is that an operating system exists under the hood to facilitate things like printing to screen, to allocating memory on the heap, etc. But when you're building a basic operating system, or really any operating system at all, you're actually building the thing underneath. So let's take a look at that thing underneath, and we're going to start in boot.s. Now, the only thing that we need to jump to here to really understand, let me move this over a little, is this line right here, this magic. This bad boot2, which spells really bad boot, this marks the start of the binary and is part of the multi-boot standard. All that's to say that any bootloader that finds this number knows that this file is a kernel and says, let me load it into memory and jump wherever it tells me to jump to. Below it, I reserve a stack of stack size. I then set up some more code here that's going to be responsible for a later demo where I'm demoing our 4-byte stack. And then over here on line 48, I call into main, which I titled kmain. Now, when I combine this with our linker.ld script, which describes the physical address space of every byte in this OS, we get here the final output called whatnotos.elf. Today's sponsor is me, because I built something that I actually believe in. Getcracked.io is the platform I wish existed when I was prepping for quant interviews. We have questions, coding problems, roadmaps, all for software engineers, quant traders, and hardware engineers. And you don't need to be interested in just quant to benefit. Our quizzes, for example, benchmark you against other candidates, and we have video courses on topics like quant system design, taught by real quant professionals who've done the job, not AI professors. The link's in the description box below. If you're serious about landing the role, go check it out. That's our operating system. Now, how does it boot without a bootloader or a disk or an install? Well, that's where QEMU comes into play. It acts as a bootloader and it reads that ELF file. All right, so what we would do is we would do make run, where our make is described here on our make file, and then what we get is this nice little QEMU screen, which I always have a very hard time making a little larger. Now, what this is doing is it's finding the one bad boot, it's loading us where our linker file asks us to start, and it jumps into our very first instruction. Let's start with our address space.
Spaces. Man, no bells are ringing for some reason.
A simple way to test if there's any virtual to physical address translation here is to read the control register 0. This is where your operating system most likely contains flags about its modes and some other bits and pieces. One of them is PG. PG is a flag that is bit 31, and when it is set, it actually indicates whether paging is on or not. So I just clicked on 6, which is one of my demos that I produced here for you guys to see not only whether paging is on, but also what our privilege level is. Now, when I run that demo, what you can see is the two guys kissing at the top of the screen. I mean, the W that's printed by simply altering the contents of an address that is then dereferenced and printed to screen. Now, because my screen is entirely addresses, that's why I'm able to write to it. I don't have a printf, I don't have a stdcout. My addresses are my screen, and that's why the W appears there. Now, while I'm filming this, I noticed that I actually made a mistake, so let's correct it in real time. I'm not writing to address 158. I actually meant to write to that before, but then realized that I couldn't find the W on the screen. Maybe I was just blind, so I wrote to a lower address and then found it right at the top at the center of the screen. What you'll also notice is CPL here, right? And CPL prints out 0, right? CPL is current privilege level. 0 is the highest and 3 is the lowest, being user mode. The current privilege level, it's stored in the code segment or the CS register. That's why CS equals blah, blah, blah is there for you. It's only stored in the lower 2 bits because we only need 2 bits to represent the number 3. And as I mentioned, 3 is user mode. Here we have ring 0 always for everybody, no matter how you use it. That means that WhatNotOS is actually very simple to TempleOS. And I did a video about that maybe a week, 2, 3 max ago, because a program that crashes in TempleOS takes down the entire operating system. The same thing will happen here in WhatNotOS. For example, I want to exit and I do it improperly, for example, Shift Escape, as you can see, an exception gets thrown and the whole thing just becomes unusable. One is what we call like a sleep lock, but
Yes.
there is another form of locking.
Spit lock? Spin lock.
Yeah.
Spin lock. I've never used a spin lock. Why would you use a spin lock?
For synchronization, WhatNotOS uses a spit lock. Now, the atomic exchange that we see here, this is real. This genuinely will provide mutual exclusion between threads had WhatNotOS had threading support. Yes, this is the simplest form of mutual exclusion. It's a test and set. You're going to see it in Anthony Williams' concurrency in action for C++. You'll see it here too in this really basic implementation, and it works. Now, what's this whole thing about spitting, though, as we can see over here? Now, if you'll recall, WhatNotOS locks don't spin, they spit, right? So every time we try to acquire a lock, we spit, and if we spit more than 4 times, it fails. Now, that makes sense on 2 fronts. The first is that your brain won't actually allow you to swallow more than 5 times, or 5 or more times. Please try it. The second is that on a single core non-preemptive system, the system is never going to get anything back if we spin for probably more than 4 times. In other words, we are probably looking at a very simple hang. The next thing we need to build is a quote terminated string. Now in C, strings end with a null terminator, but in WhatNotOS, they end with a quote. A string is always terminated with something. What does it end with?
Like it's two, like two quotation marks and then.
Now the null terminator is a 0th byte and the quote is, I guess, simply just a quote character. So let's take a look at the source code and see where WhatNotPuts is actually used. We have to go to kernel.cpp and, oh, it's actually right here. Let's scroll down a little. All right, so we have our string demo. Now, in kernel.cpp, I constructed a struct that contains 3 fields, as you can see here, good, leaky, and secret. The first field holds our quote terminated string, as you can see right here. The second holds a string just large enough to fit inside leaky. Now, notice how our second string here, it's not quote terminated, which means we'll continue to print if we print leaky into printing secret. When we run the demo you see right here, you're going to notice that leaky gets printed and right after it, secret gets printed, despite the fact that we only ever printed leaky. Now let's take a look at a demo with regards to our quote terminated strings. I'm going to click 2 and that's going to print the demo. The first thing you're going to see on the screen is this string is quote terminated, right? That one right there. We see that there is a period before the quote that we saw in the actual code itself, that escaped quote character. Right after that, we print the next string, which unfortunately is not quote delimited. And therefore, the string right after it, that is, gets printed alongside it. So we have welcome to WhatNotOS, and then we spill into contiguous memory and print the remainder until we arrive at a quote character. Now let's talk about vector. How big is a vector?
8 bytes. I'm gonna say 8 bytes.
This is actually my favorite container to ask about in real interviews because everybody comes in really confident and most leave scratching their head. With a vector, we need to keep track of three things: where it begins, how large it is, and how much space we've allocated. WhatNotOS plays by a different set of rules though. It's an 8-byte vector. 8 bytes on a 32-bit system allow for 2 pointers. So something that I had to do in deciding how to design this vector is to nuke one of the 3 components. And I decided to nuke capacity. That means that pushback here actually checks nothing and reallocates nothing. It just writes to whatever endpoint. So let's take a look at the demo. So here in our demo, what I'm doing is I'm passing the vector an address representing the beginning of our video RAM or the screen here, and it will grow in real time. Now in the real world, we'd be allocating on the heap, but here we're just pushing back stuff into the monitor. What's worth noting is the reason the capacity exists in the first place and why a vector is 3 pointers instead of 2. Pushback is fast because vector over allocates and therefore only occasionally needs to reallocate. That capacity field though, that's the secret. That tells us if there's any memory left to fit in just one more element into. And if not, then we need to ask the heap for more space. The next thing I want to talk about is WhatNotOS's threading library. It's a zero scheduling latency, zero context switch overhead system achieved through a revolutionary technique that I call IFI, immediate function invocation, right over here. Now see, in C++, if you don't call join on a joinable thread before it goes out of scope, std terminate is called. And that's what the WhatNotOS founders got right in theory. In practice though, in C++ 20, JThread was introduced, which joins on destruction, preventing this panic and immediate program shutdown via RAI principles. Up until now, we were just warming up. You see, WhatNotOS is the first of its kind to feature the 4, maybe 8-byte stack.
The stack of 4 bytes, 8.
On modern operating systems, your stack is around 8 megabytes, which is wasteful and bloated. So what I decided to do was I decided to run make run tiny, which is another command that I wrote. QEMU boots completely normally despite make run tiny setting the stack size to 8 bytes. And the only reason that this works is because WhatNotOS has no memory protection. So if we run our stack usage report, as you can see here, well, what happens? Our stack pointer is actually several bytes below the stack in memory. In a real operating system, the MMU would catch this, it would throw an exception, it wouldn't allow it, and it would make it blatant and very well known. Every hashtag here is a byte that somebody else's data was destroyed due to WhatNotOS's stack. And with that, I want to thank you for learning about the development of WhatNotOS. If you're interested in learning more about programming languages like C++ and careers in hardware, software, or trading in the highest paying industry in the world, that being quant trading, you can check out getcracked.io. Cheers.